Neville. There's 30 seconds.
Corla, I'd just like to ask the Minister for Community Development his plans to review the Clár areas, and if you'll make a statement on the matter, please.
Minister's 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Clár is an important part of the Government's action plan for rural development and focuses on areas which have suffered the greatest level of population decline. It is a programme that provides modest amounts of money for small-scale initiatives in rural areas, but the impact of the funding for these areas is huge. Clár was effectively closed for new applications in 2010. However, since I relaunched Clár in 2016, more than 1,200 projects have benefited from funding of 25 million under the programme. The type of projects which have been funded include safety measures around schools and other community facilities, multi-use play areas, support for voluntary first responders, emergencies organisations, and funding for vehicles to transport people to cancer care centres and other respite services. I have visited many of these projects which have received funding under Clár, and I can see the difference the support from the programme makes in improving the lives of people in Clár communities. As I have outlined, Clár focuses on areas which have suffered significant population decline. However, the underlying data needs to be reviewed to take account of the 2016 census of population. In this context, I have commenced a review of the programme which will examine Clár areas in light of the 2016 census data. The review process began last month with a targeted consultation meeting with a number of experts who are recognised for their background in rural development issues. The review will also involve more detailed stakeholders' consultations, and I anticipate that the review will be completed in the first half of 2019.
Deputy Neville has 1 minute.
First of all, I'd like to welcome the fact that the Clár funding has been open again in 2017. Obviously, there was no delivery since 2010 given the economic crash and obviously subsequent recovery that we're able to give back to rural Ireland and obviously redevelop rural Ireland. As the Minister outlines, it was the investment in providing small-scale infrastructure projects in rural areas that have suffered the greatest level of population decline. Some of these areas obviously were going through population decline before the economic recession ever hit. We know that from our own research on that, and I think it's trying to find more innovative ways in actually combating that. I'd like to welcome the areas for Limerick under Provision 1 for the Clárs of this year, including Bulgadin, Minkilly NS, Doon Girls, Athay NS, Kilbenny NS, Mount Collins NS, Ula Community Council, Village and School, Rahina NS, Knockadee NS and Ashford NS, and also under Measure 2, Kilfinnan Community Council and Killeedy Development Committee as well. I'd like to ask the Minister if there's any measures in actually extending or reviewing the Clár programme going forward. Minister, 1 minute.
Thank you, Thank you, Deputy, for raising the issue. The Clár programme, as I said, is actually one of the better programmes that was introduced over the years, and as where I have differences with my colleague across the way, it was one of the good schemes that was introduced. It was closed, as I said, from 2010, but I'm looking and I'm reviewing the schemes itself, and I'm looking at schemes that we can identify that will be supportive of rural areas and will be supportive of communities that are not able to get the support that they need from other state agencies. And that's why the one thing about the Clár, I can identify programmes that will be a help. And one of the ones that I think last year it worked out very well was in relation particularly the first responders, and this is particularly in some rural areas where they don't have health board services. They're depending on ambulances, the voluntary like the Order of Malta or other voluntary groups there to bring people to hospital. That has worked out very well. And also the cancer services, where particularly in rural Ireland we have many people that don't have the funding, that are not able to get to hospital appointments, and that we need to support them and give them the help and support to be able to get to their appointments and to get them home again. And I'm delighted that I brought that initiative in. And I am looking at other initiatives. That's why we're doing the review. Also, we need to, I am going back on the old figures. I need to do a review, and I need to look and see where the areas that need to be targeted for Clár funding.
Final supplementary, Deputy Neville.
Again, I welcome the Minister's statement in relation to this, and would also ask that some sort of synergy will be looked at in relation to Clár funding. I very much welcome the Rural Regeneration Fund that has happened in the past couple of weeks. A huge investment in the Great Southern Greenway in Limerick, starting after Rathkeil, going back to Newcastle West and back to the Kerry border, and also in Glenbrohan in my constituency, a community hub there that will encompass an enterprise hub, a community hub and a men's shed as well. This is an area that is, I suppose, a pinnacle of rural Ireland, where it is a very, very small village in South Limerick, and this hub will have a huge enhancement. But forwarding on from that, I would ask for consideration in relation to coordination with other departments, particularly housing, that when monies are delivered to rural areas that would have been depopulated, and it may be seen that there isn't a demand for housing there, that there will be a knock-on effect, and then when these monies are delivered, that will generate demand, and that would be looked favourably then when housing are looking at it from a demand point of view.
Thank you, Deputy. Again, in relation to you talk about the schemes, the outdoor recreation scheme, the town of Edis scheme, and all these schemes have worked very well. But in relation to Clara and some of the schemes, the road regeneration scheme that we have, I have to be careful that that other departments don't see this as a mechanism of not doing what they should be doing. And you're quite correct. I need to get my department, and I am and have been asking them to sit down with other departments. What I don't want to see happening over the next number of years is that and I see it already from some departments, they're telling groups and voluntary groups, oh, go to the Department of Rural and Community Development, they're the ones that have the funding, even though they're the ones that have the actual direct funding. I don't mind supplementing schemes, and one of the schemes that was raised here at the last question time, and Deputy Kenny our Minister Kenny had just raised it a minute ago as well, like group water schemes do a wonderful job for rural communities. One of the difficulties is small amount of people, big contribution, and I need to look to see how can I support them in relation to their contribution. But what I don't want to see happening is, I don't want to see either the Department of the Environment or the local authorities upping their charges and taking the money from my department. This has to go into rural areas. Thank you.